Postgame Show. Bobby Manning and John Zannis holding down the fort while Josue Pavon does what he does out in the field. Josue covering the team in New Orleans and Chicago. And he's there right now talking to some of the guys after a that's not the right score.
I was going to say, wow, that was kind of a blowout.
That's not the
Felt
right
a little
score.
closer than that. But good win, holding on late against a pretty fierce Pelicans comeback. You had some turnover issues in the second half that plagued the offense, and Tatum probably had his worst night of the season overall, even with the passing. That I guess we'll hit on first. Tatum looking shaky from the field, but a decent defensive night, 10 assists, you'll take it. You probably want a little bit more from him in the way of scoring, but he was keeping the ball moving. They have another ridiculous 3-point night. It's like it's not coming back to Earth. It's going all the way to Mars. This 3-point.
Oh, Mars!
Like this is ridiculous what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean they cooled off. That's always the fear when you start hot, that you just kind of keep jacking. This was one of those. I mean, this was not a good Tatum game. He was, just shot.
It was fine.
No, it wasn't. It was a bad game.
It was okay.
It was a bad Tatum game. The assists are fine at the end, but the bottom line is he settled way too much. He took way too many threes. He didn't get to the basket. He didn't have his first 3-point attempt until late. Look, he's entitled, okay? Yeah. But it was a bad overall Tatum game. Sloppy, balls were bouncing off his hands. The turnovers might have gone to other people. He didn't do a good job corralling the ball in transition.
Brown had a 7-turnover game, though.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to Brown in a minute. But, like, the downside, the upside to this game is you're down Marcus. Obviously, you're still down Rob. You get Brogdon back, and he wasn't very effective in his first game back. Bench did not blow up, the way it has before. And
yeah, I thought the bench stunk tonight.
The bench was really bad tonight, and so you didn't get that bump from them. And you got not a bad Tatum game and a very sloppy Brown game, and you still win. So again, just speaks to, the talent of the team, that even when they're not great, and we'll get to Derek White. Derek White's the MVP, unquestioned, of the night, and I think he deserves a lot of love. But, when you're watching this game, what's great is you can have some down, and then you can get picked up by some people playing up. And, in the early part, it wasn't just Derek White. Al Horford knocked down all his threes early as well. So they were just really, they just put so much pressure on them by knocking down all those threes. But what freaks me out, what's going to give me a little PTSD over this game, is seeing your two best players revert to the worst versions of themselves, the ones that gave you nightmares and fits last year. And again,
didn't like Tatum dribbling around to that mid-ranger. He took about like 10 dribbles on that play.
Too much dribbling, and then Jalen just a sloppy mess, just dribbling and losing it without pressure. And this is what they've avoided this year. They've avoided and again, they only had like 5 turnovers until they got to the third quarter, and they turned it over like a zillion times. They've avoided turnovers by not over dribbling, and they haven't gone back to it. So you felt, okay, they got it. And this was the first game where it was like, that's all the stuff you stopped doing, which is why you've been so efficient. Please don't do it again. And yes, I know there's 17 assists, but you can't say 17 assists unless you say 10 turnovers. And a less than 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio is not great. It was bad basketball by those guys. They did not play great basketball. But they still win, even when having these guys do it. I just hate seeing that I just hate seeing them revert a little bit, even if it's just one game, to the stuff that didn't work last year. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, you would have felt that more if they didn't have that 10 for 16 cushion. I think they started 14 to 26 from 3. So that gave them a ton of room for error.
They had a lot of room for error, and they still stemmed off a lot of runs, to their credit, which was great.
Big shots from White and Grant throughout in terms of stopping runs. And, Tatum and Brown had some big ones late once it got down to 10-8, wherever it was there in the closing minutes. So overall, again, I feel like it's an okay performance. I'm not coming out of this one wicked frustrated with them. I think Joe is. You saw him at the end there. I think Sean mentioned it.
It was a
Like kind of
bad.
shaking his head.
It
Yeah,
was not a great team performance. They didn't do a lot of things at their best, and again, they still won. That's the caveat. It's just
yeah.
you're looking at bigger. This isn't one of those like a win is a win is a win. No, it doesn't matter. You're looking. This team's got much bigger goals than a friggin' win in mid-November in New Orleans. What you don't want to see is any
With no Zion.
Yeah, what you don't want to see is any backsliding. In the way that they're playing, because that's what's so impressive right now. Just relentless, the commitment to the passing, the off-ball movement, not dribbling too much, and that's fine. If they learn their lesson and they're like, yeah, we can't do that anymore, yeah, you're going to have blips. You can't play perfect games, 82 games. That's the only thing here is you don't want to see them backslide at all into those types of habits with those guys. And, I guess, if you're Tatum, you're watching everybody hit threes and you're like, I guess that's what we're doing today. And you're going to start jacking.
It was interesting, right? Yeah, because he never really backed off the jump shooting in this one. There was a game, I think on Monday against Oklahoma City, where he starts 1 of 7 from 3. I believe that was the number. He took 1 3 in the closing sequence of the game. It might have been even the whole second half. He only had 1 3-point attempt in that game. Got downhill, had a big 4 for 5 finish in the fourth there in that comeback. And his approach changed. He adjusted off what wasn't working earlier in the game. You didn't really see that from him in this one. And again, I love the passing in this one. Overall, I thought ball control from him was solid. But yeah, it wasn't his greatest game in terms of shot selection. Even that one he hit, to go back to that one where he's just dribbling around the world into
really
the
tough
floater.
one. Yeah,
really tough one. He hit
floater falling to his left, contested. Those are the types of shots he was missing last year because it wasn't all the way to the rim. That's a very difficult shot. So yeah, that wasn't a great one either.
Yeah, and Pelicans played them pretty aggressively in the paint. You even saw that big rebounding volleyball sequence from Brown at the end. Just a lot of bodies in there. White had to finish through traffic. So if you were going in the paint, you were going to be facing Valanciunas and some big bodies in there. So I think that's where some of the settling ends up from, though. If this is going to be a bit of a Milwaukee preview in terms of like the style of defense, you're able to exploit a center like Valanciunas and Brook Lopez or some of those big guys who are just going to sit in the paint with Al Horford, who was just incredible early, hits 4 threes in the first, exploits him big time in the third to the point where it looked like they couldn't really even play Valanciunas anymore, who's super dangerous. I mean, if they could have played him a little bit more in this one, he's a guy who could have exploited the Celtics, but just a disastrous defensive game from him. The Pelicans were terrible at that end all game long, and you're pretty much able to just cruise to victory on the offensive end. That's a good thing. You're going to run into a lot of teams that just stink defensively this year, and your offense is so good.
But the Pelicans aren't one of them. They're the 8th. They're 8th right now in defense, and they're a top 2 or 3 team in defending 3-pointers, which obviously
I didn't know the 3-point stat, but I don't look at them as a great defense with the
I'm saying
that
statistically they've been playing pretty decent defense. So you came up, you put a 40 spot on them in the first, and really that was the whole ball game right there. You kept them at arm's length the rest of the way, and that was that. Just ungodly shooting from 3 early on, and that's what won the game for them outright. The rest of it, they were able to kind of hold off those runs whenever they needed to. Joe Mazzulla just called his first timeout, I'm told, in my ear here. So that's good. He's got a couple left for the end of the game if he needs them. But yeah, they made it. They It's
funny though.
It's fun to play a game where you're like, you can find 15 things that went wrong, and that they kind of cruised to victory. I mean, it really wasn't. It wasn't really. You didn't sweat it, right?
No, you didn't. I don't think anyone was terrified.
I don't think they would. Maybe they played with their food a little bit. I think they realized they weren't going to lose, and they just kind of messed around here.
Yeah, it got down to 6 on that Ingram 3. I was a little worried after that.
Jacob, thank you.
Yeah, I didn't think they were going to lose this game at any point after the cushion that they built. I think it was 19 right after halftime. And they were going to have a tough time fully overcoming that, the Pelicans. And to Boston's credit, good run-stopping plays. It's funny, like you mentioned the timeouts, John, and we're going to talk about that all year. But
multiple times on every run. And you could see the runs coming, and it was like, stop them.
Well, the funny thing is,
I don't get if they play their way off the run, Bobby, when it's over. Stop the 15-2 run. Don't bounce back after the 15-2. Stop it. You can see during one of those runs, they were getting really sloppy with the ball. As soon as you see it, guys, nope. Collect yourselves. You're dribbling too much. Get back to what we were doing. Stop it when you see the bad habits beginning to form, not after. I don't understand the philosophy.
Probably just wants to keep things flowing. And number two, I don't think he's going to change much in terms of the approach or even say much during those sequences. And a lot of the times they've made a play or two back the other way. And I don't know if this factors into it, but other teams are calling them up like 2 buckets the other way. So Willie Green in this one, I think that was the sequence where I think it was Grant and Horford hit shots the other way. All of a sudden, New Orleans is on this massive run. Couple Celtics shots go back the other way, and boom, it's timeout Pelicans. And that's happened all year. The Denver did it on Friday. I feel like New Orleans did it. I mean, Oklahoma did it on Monday. Like they just have such a tight rope on the timeouts themselves that like they're rattling them off, and the Celtics don't even have to call them.
I mean, like you tweeted it, New Orleans called them for the Celtics, but it was usually after the run and after a Celtics response.
A few answers, yeah. And, I think Joe feels at this point that his team's capable of sprinkling those 1 or 2 little response baskets where they need them. But it did get big in this one. I'll give it to you. That stretch in the third probably warranted a timeout when it got down to 6 or the 4th, wherever that was there that they pulled within a couple of possessions. Yeah. I'd like some more, but that's his thing. And you know what? For a rookie head coach, a guy that you're not really sure about his identity, who's deferring to the players quite a bit, it's nice to have something that you can tell is distinctively Joe. And they seem to like it. Like I've talked about, everybody you talk to in the room likes that approach, and they've done well with it. You're sitting here at 13-3, despite a few close games, a big deficit against Oklahoma, a big blown lead in this one. You're in a pretty good place. So don't change until you necessarily need to, I'd say. Though, come playoff time, I think we'll have bigger gripes when things are a little more tight and like every little decision matters a little bit more. Like this regular season basketball early on this year is still so loose and back and forth, and the defenses haven't been great that they've seen.
Across the league,
I mean,
scoring is way up. Offensive numbers are up.
Everybody's running around. They're playing some high-paced games.
Totally. And again, I like it. And again, a game where your 2 stars, I think obviously Jalen was able to score, but a game where, your number 1 star really didn't have a good scoring night.
How about from a viewer's perspective,
You're
John?
still putting up $117, which is just unreal.
How great is it from a viewer's perspective watching this team that never challenges play? Well, they've challenged them, but doesn't challenge plays a ton, doesn't call a ton of timeouts. I mean, these games are pretty brisk watches.
Games.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, this game was cruising along. No, it's great. I mean, look, it's an entertaining team to watch. Even when they don't play great, they're winning fairly comfortably. You look back on it, they have 1 regulation loss this year. Cleveland was playing out of its mind when the Celtics lost to them. And they've come back down to earth a little bit. Chicago, their other loss, Chicago's in a bad way right now. And so that's who they play next right now. But I mean, the Bulls have fallen way off. They've lost 4 straight. They're 6-10 right now.
That hurts. I got a good friend who's a Bulls fan, and I know it like crushes them every time they lose. And every time I look over the scoreboard and see them floundering, I'm like, oh man, I wish they could just pick it up a little bit.
Yeah. Jason Tatum's gonna figure it out. He'll be fine.
Yeah, no, that should be a win. You'll get to 10, right?
Nobody is worried that Jason Tatum is. No one's worried. No one's worried about Tatum. And the Brown stuff is, look, this is what Jaylen Brown is.
I don't know what to say.
I have not. I don't know what to say other than I promise I won't make a big deal about it if everyone else promises to stop talking about his increased playmaking and how he continues to evolve as a player. Jaylen Brown is one thing. He's an absolute bucket machine. He gets buckets. He hits tough shots. He goes to the basket hard. He can get friggin' red hot from 3. He is a bucket machine. Everything else is just whatever. It's just, you don't need to have other expectations of Jaylen Brown outside of that. It's okay. It's as simple as too much Jalen dribbling equals a lot of turnovers. He shouldn't have the ball in his hands that much. When he gets it and he's decisive and he goes and he shoots, even when they're tough contested shots, doesn't matter. He makes a ton of them. As soon as he starts doing that little dribbly thing and driving into traffic with his head down, this happens a lot. He's just got a little self-control is all he needs, and then he's just a bucket machine. That's just who he is. We don't need to expect him to be much better than that. Just stay with what the system is doing for you right now. It's working.
Yeah, and we've talked about where he's at his best, which is catching the ball and finishing, specifically close to the basket in transition. 3-point, I mean, he had a decent start to this game. I think 2 of 5 from 3 that got him up to 33% from this season. But, we're looking at like a 3-year stretch here where his 3-point shooting has dipped quite a bit. Probably due to pressure, probably due to way defenses have played him and where he's taken him from. He used to be that corner king, remember? We don't see him get
Jalen?
looks. Yeah, we don't see him get a lot of looks there anymore. So, he's not a great shooter at this point from 3. Pretty great shooter from 2, but they don't like to take those. And you're going to have to pick your spots when it comes to having shots created for you. So he's a guy who has a lot of interest in becoming and expanding his playmaking. I think they've allowed him to do that over the last 2-3 games here. You wonder if they reel it in a little bit, though, just due to the results. This was a rough one. Again, dribbling into spaces, not knowing where to go, ball just popping out of his hands.
It's not his game. It's not his game. We got to stop thinking it's getting better because it's not.
It's a balance, though. If he wants to expand his game in that spot, like, what are you going to say? Jalen, forget about it. You're never going to do it. Like,
it's not a matter of doing it. You can do more. Like, you can just naturally progress just doing what you're doing, but doing it a little bit better. You're not all of a sudden going to try to force the issue and be something you're not. It's just you live and die with the same stuff with Jalen. He goes so freaking fast. That's why I compare him to Westbrook. And every time I say it, everyone loses their mind. I'm not comparing their games or the type of player they are or who they are in their career. I'm saying Russell Westbrook goes 1,000 miles an hour and he's an athletic freak. And when he does that, he's impossible to stop. Jaylen Brown Jaylen Brown can do that stuff. I'm talking about prime Russell. Jaylen Brown is one of those guys where he just goes and he just gets by you and he uses that speed and athleticism. But when he does that and he's going Mach 10, he's going to lose the ball from time to time. It's just the price you pay for the things that he's able to do. That's just what he does. And when he sets guys up, he's got to shake and bake. He's got to dribble a little bit to hit some of those contested twos. When he does it, he's going to lose the ball sometimes too because his handle's a little bit loose. We got to get the tape measure out, Bobby. It's a problem. You're going to live and die by it. And I'm fine with it as long as I said we have a contract that people aren't going to keep saying he's getting better and blah, blah, blah. He's not. He's been the same guy for roughly 3 years as far as this stuff goes. He has improved over where he was in the first few years, but for the last 3 or so years, he's basically the same guy with the ball in his hands. He's pretty loose with it. He loses the ball a ton, but he's a freaking bucket machine. And honestly, that's good enough because it's the hardest thing to do in basketball, to be able to create your own shot, to just get by people, to rise up over people and score. And he's phenomenal at it. So that's it. Just leave it there.
Phenomenal.
He is. He's great at that. It's an amazing skill, and it's the hardest thing to do in the game, and he does it.
I'm not. You're 13-3. You're playing great on both ends. I'm not worried about his individual start because you look at his individual start and it's not great. Like if this season was all about
his 3-pointers are way down.
And his defense to start this year is just inexplicable. Like it's bad. Like he's getting torched in circumstances, getting lost. He makes big plays in this game late. He makes up for the turnovers in spurts throughout this game. So he ends up having a solid one. But if you were looking at this season and saying, all right, this is all about Jalen's development and he needs to take the next step as a player and then as an individual.
Jalen's still 26. He's in freaking year 7, guys.
Yeah.
He's in his 7th year in the NBA, guys. Come on. I mean, like I said, can we just live with him being a really good scorer and not pretend that everything else is happening? It's not. And it's fine.
Yes, you can live with that for now. But in a couple of years, when you make that contract decision, if he's creeping in the All-NBA status and all of a sudden you're making this decision as a heavy tax team on your Supermax, which you can offer him here, is ownership going to look at him as a player? They will, right? Because you're not just going to let Brown go in the middle of this run and hurt your chance to continue to contend here. But it becomes a little bit tougher if he's not continuing to progress as a player individually and you're putting yourself out there and saying, all right, if he hits All NBA this year, it's $300 million, and then you're giving another $300 million to Tatum. So that's like the only reason that his individual play matters. Because when we look at them as a team, him doing this within the context of a team works. Like, he can be this finisher and this guy who plays off the ball more and screens more. And I'm glad that Joe Mazzulla is pushing him in that direction. Hopefully that's going to be where he ends up.
Yeah.
To end the year. Like, you want him doing that in the playoffs, but in spurts, you're going to have to try to push him to progress overall with playmaking and different stuff, because you want him to continue and improve as a player. I'm not ruling out him continuing to improve, John. Like, you can't just sit there as a team and be like, man, this is it. This is him. Like, you got to, especially if he wants to, and that's like his desire a couple of years from free agency, you're going to have to work with that to some degree.
Again, no one's saying there's not going to continue to improve some. We're just going to simply say this is an aspect of his game that it is what it is, and you just live with it. It cost them the turnovers, cost them the finals last year. You're talking
not
about
his.
Everybody's. These turnovers, this type of basketball, you have a much bigger goal in mind than beating the Pelicans without their best player in mid-November. You have your targets are set on something much, much, much bigger. You want to not see it. But again, this isn't a Jaylen complaint. This is a Jaylen reality. We're not dogging Jaylen Brown. We're just simply stating that he's an absolute bucket machine who's a sloppy mess with the ball in his hands, and he turns it over a lot. It just is what it is. These are facts. These are statistical facts. It's not, nobody's saying anything that isn't true, that isn't provable by simply looking at numbers. It is what it is. He still was an assassin tonight. He got big buckets when they needed him. He was super hot early in the game when Tatum didn't have it going. Without Jaylen Brown, they don't win this game. These are all facts, okay?
Yeah.
But again, it's tough. It's tough watching that. And it's going to be tough watching that when defensive pressure goes up and you need to take care of the ball and,
but
blah,
that's
blah, blah, blah,
why putting them in these certain positions is going to matter. And this is one of these things that's a challenge for Mazzulla as the coach. Like, he's in a great position right now where this thing's sort of just running itself. They've established so much that he doesn't have to do a ton as a coach to put this team where it needs to be. But that's one of the challenges. You have this megastar who's really coming into his own as a brand and as a superstar in this league and all these different things. You know where he's successful and you know where he's not, and where he's not is still kind of where he wants to be to some degree. So that's the sort of thing you as a coach, like those conversations, timeouts, to go back to that, these different positions that you're in where you're communicating with him, especially where you're allowing the players to handle so much themselves. That's where, some tough conversations, to go to Josue's phrase, have to come up. Because where has he been great to start this year? Screening and rolling, screening and popping out, catching the ball in transition. Like, he is a machine in those areas. And I love that Mazzulla's really emphasized him being in those spots. But I talked to him last week and I'm like, how tough is this for you? Like, going off the ball more, screening more, all these different things you're not really used to. And he's like, yeah, it's an adjustment. Like, this isn't the same as last year.
It's different.
Yeah. So I'm sure he's not thrilled about it, but winning cures all. And that's the position he's going to have to be in to win.
Bingo. So, and again, I want to get to the good stuff. So I want to talk about, White and like completely turning it around, but just putting a bow on Tatum. Shot selection was a little off, but a lot of people were saying, I was in Discord earlier and people are saying in the chat, he looked tired. We need Josue. We need our New Orleans reporter, Josue, to figure out whether the guys might have hit it a little bit last night. Because
did they get in yesterday?
But I'll ask you this, just because, do you think there was anything New Orleans was doing defensively that was keeping Tatum from trying to get to the basket, packing the paint, or is it just because, he didn't really attack much at all. And he had been so well, over the last few games. And he doesn't get his first free throw attempt until the fourth quarter. I think he finished with 6, but a couple of those were, late foul, sort of thing. So he really didn't get to the line as he'd been, and he just really wasn't driving and looking to finish that way. Almost everything was from the outside. Why do you think that was?
I think to some degree it's what we've seen from him in the past, where if that paint gets cut off, it can be a challenge for him. And this is an offense that can get into that string of jacking a bunch of shots. There were stretches, I think, early second, early fourth, where they just started launching. And I think he was shooting off the dribble quite a bit. It's been nice seeing him getting some more catch and shoot opportunities this year away from the guards. And I think Brogdon's struggles probably played into that. The fact that Smart's not out there hurts Tatum when it comes to having shots set up for him. But this is one of those teams in New Orleans that really has that aggressive drop. And, obviously it's been successful for the Celtics this year. The Bucks have the number one defense in the league. Going to that base-wise. So, that's a defense that really works well in the regular season for teams. And they have a big center in Valanciunas who can run it well, versatile guy in Nance who can come in and run some small ball and pick him up in the paint. Like to your point, John, like they're a better defensive team than I expected, especially even coming in and hearing that. And, they defended him well in this one. So I think you give some credit to them. They have Ingram, another long guy to throw at him, Alvarado, who can really get in on some bigger guys and steal the ball. I would give some credit to the Pelicans. This was a bad game for Tatum in terms of approach offensively. But again, you have that outlet on the perimeter. And this is what I still love about this offense. It's not that they're just nailing a million threes. They have Tatum and Brown scoring 60 points every night. It's that they know where to go with the ball and they make good decisions and they read the defense.
Constantly making the right reads.
So Tatum, as much as you're looking at 6 for 18, he's a big reason Horford goes 7 for 8 in this one. And that's what you like to see. So I'm not going to kill Tatum for this performance. He'd been due for
not killing
back,
him,
but yeah.
Again, you can't possibly play. I mean, he was having 30 on bad nights. You know what I mean? Is like, and by bad nights, meaning by his standards, he's on another planet right now, and he's a top 3 MVP candidate. So he's entitled to games like this, and he's going to have more of them. There's nothing about Jason Tatum that's a problem. Just settled a lot from 3. And again, those are the things where it's like, keep going, keep doing what you're doing, keep attacking. But again, he made it happen with assists. He wasn't as careless with the ball as Brown was. He has a 10 assist game. It's hard to complain about it. The shot just wasn't falling, just too many threes jacking early.
We've seen him have much worse games.
Much worse. He seemed a little out of it. That's all. But again, I'm not freaking at all about anything Tatum did. Marcus Smart is out, so Derek White starts. I know you were talking about it, Bobby, as like the likely thing that they would do, that they would leave him up there and have Brogdon come off the bench. White was on it. White was
good
ridiculous. White was freaking ridiculous tonight.
I'm still stunned that they made the decision to bench him, 5-6 games ago.
It worked though, right? Because the
defense got better, but his play got worse. And again, we're not worried about individual play here, but you had him rolling as a starter. I think the tricky thing for the defense is he is that guy who gets attacked at times. And this is a balance we'll talk about with him defensively, because you've talked about that a lot. Like the Warriors went at him, different teams in the playoffs went at him. But man, when he's like in space and he needs to like go for the ball, or he's guarding in transit, he can really make some plays off the ball that are just incredible. I mean, like if you look at his defense, I had him to all defense last year, 2 steals, 2 blocks in this one. He counteracts some of those plays where he gets attacked by bigger guys with like just some ridiculous stops individually in traffic. I mean, he was the guy on Curry in the finals. Like this guy can be a monster defensively. And now you open his offensive game where he's shooting over 44% from 3 this year. That was one of the first things I saw in camp, was him just nailing them with Ben Sullivan. Not a much different approach in terms of the motion. Like even the big one he hit on the other night there.
No, it
Atlanta,
looks kind of the same.
It was the exact same. One of the big ones down the stretch he had in that Hawks game. Like it's the leaner, and he just goes up and hits it. So he's going to go through some ups and downs.
The stroke is the same, but he's not falling back. That's about the difference.
He's always had that lean, right?
Yeah.
Even back to his Spurs games, like he kind of like fades out of a shot, like. And, I've heard that too, playing with different people over the years. It's like you just want to go straight up. You don't want to lean out of it. And for some reason, he does that quite a bit. Maybe it's just, he was wicked small early in his basketball career. I don't know if you know like the story of his background, that, in high school, he had no prospects of playing because he was like 5'7" or whatever, and he had this massive growth spurt in the college. So he probably that probably stems from his early days when he was one of the smaller guys on the court having to create space. But now he's bigger. He can shoot over some smaller guards. Like, he can go straight up. And I think that's the mechanical adjustment, at least when I look at it, that's been a big difference for him this year, is just a little bit less lean on that shot. And I've talked to Ben Sullivan, who has been working with him, and he says, like, it's not a huge difference mechanically. It's just a small one.
It's the same motion. I don't know if you see it. It looks to me like Horford actually refined his motion a little bit. Where the elbow was more out, and I think it's come a little bit more in, and it's quicker release, and it's a little bit more compact. White's shot looks exactly the same to me, but as you said, maybe the lean. I put this comment up because I did want to talk about it. We're talking about Tatum not going to the basket. That crossover and switch to the left that he made early. I think it was still in the first quarter.
The floater. I can't wait to dive into that floater, man. It's a part of his game now, isn't it?
That was the one where he just went left and finished.
Oh, okay. There was another.
He broke somebody's ankles, crossed him over, and then just finished left. And and Pelicans called a timeout right after. It was an unbelievable move to the basket there.
He's got great poise in the lane at this point, and that's why you want to see him, if the three-pointer isn't there, just get downhill and go there a ton. And it's gonna stink. There's gonna be, I know the wrist is hurt and everything else. There's a lot of physicality in there, but look at Brown late. To give Brown a little bit of credit, like just jamming himself in there, missing 2 shots, getting the third, and laying it back up and in. It's a big play in a close game, and you're gonna have to just go there at times when the shot isn't there, when the foul calls aren't there. You're just going to have to work through it and battle and dig your way in there possession after possession. I will say for those two, though, before we circle back to White here, big rebounding nights. Like, they finally embrace that, and they win the rebounding battle in this one pretty handily against a team that was bigger than them again. I don't think you're a weak rebounding team if Brown and Tatum are rebounding at the level that they can. 10 for Brown in this one, 7 for Tatum. Those are your guys, and those are 2 of the better wing rebounders in the league. Again, it's just going to have to be big minutes, a lot of physicality, a lot of rebounding, a lot of defense, and a lot of passing from those two. Like, it's got to be outside of their scoring that they're going to have to make an impact for this team to go far.
I don't get this comment. I love the Tatum floaters. I think actually that was one of the problems last year, is he was driving into too much traffic, but anyway.
I love the floater. We've been begging for that.
We've been begging for it because they're leaving that open for him,
Yeah.
Sometimes he was trying to
drop against them. They want to be there when he goes to the rim.
Exactly. That's the point. That's there. And it makes sense. You got to exploit. You got to take what the defense is giving you. It's kind of learning along the way. We've been talking about him kind of embracing the mid-range a little bit more last year too, because just the way that he was being defended.
I'm not as thrilled about.
I understand. All I'm saying is the way his game has developed this year, just with the craftiness and the finishing around the rim, both strong and both with a little bit of the floater, I think is the reason why. Again, I don't know the exact numbers, but his 2-point percentage has just been off the charts, and how he's been in the paint, his shooting percentage is just an ungodly number right now. It's a huge difference from where it was last year.
Yeah, I do actually want to see his stats shooting wise from different spots on the floor, if I can pull him up quick here. He inside 5 feet is 71.7%.
Yeah, it's an insane percentage.
He's 71.7% on 6 shots at the rim. If we're talking mid range, I doubt he's even taken a lot of these, but he is percentage wise 39%. I mean, that's where he's kind of been sitting throughout his career from the mid-range on 2 looks per game.
Yep.
Corner 3, he is 50%, not a ton of those, but above the break, he is 33.6% from 3. So not a great 3-point start to the year overall.
No, it's neither from him nor Jalen. Jalen was 32% coming into this. It's
just making money at the rim and a ton of free throws.
Yeah.
77% in the restricted area. Just crazy. And that's some transition too, right?
Yeah. But the threes, again, what's so funny is, I mean, not funny. Yeah, I mean, you have the best 3-point shooting team in the league, and best offense in the league, and your 2 best players, overall. Tatum's fine. Tatum's not elite 3-point. He's fine. Brown's numbers are considerably down over where they've been the last few years. Tatum's actually slightly up. Though after tonight, I think it's going to be pretty close, but around 36% entering the game. So, it's not lights out by any means, but again, those guys are percentages are never going to be the same as they're not taking open threes the way Grant and Hauser and those guys are. So many of their shots are contested. That percentage is always going to be lower.
Yeah. And so Tatum specifically, I know everyone's talking MVP right now with him. That's going to be the tricky thing for him is he does go through shooting slumps. So I don't think he's going to, I don't know, should I make this prediction? I don't think he's going to finish the year over 30 points per game. Just because he does go through these lulls, and that's prevented him from getting there before some of these.
But the free throws make up for it. That's the difference this year.
Yeah, so it'll be
free
close.
Throws make it so he used to have those bad shooting games, Bobby, but then he'd finish with a lower point total because he took so many shots from the outside and he wasn't getting to the line. Now he's averaging 9 free throws a game and he's knocking them down, at a really high clip. So that's just free points he wasn't getting last year, which is why I think that scoring number is going to finish pretty close to 30 this year.
It's going to be close, yeah. But where's everybody else? What does the stat profile look like at the end of the year? He should have pretty great stats, which is going to be good for him. But if he's in a close race with Giannis and Curry, and Curry's going to be tricky because that team stinks. But there's some of the other guys who are going to be up there at the end of the year with him for MVP. Voters are going to have to really take into account the defense, and his defense has been awesome this year. Like that gets overlooked a lot with him. The passing, which if his assist numbers are up, he should get credit for that.
They're not, but it doesn't matter.
So
it doesn't matter. Again, it's early yet. You don't know how this is going to go. I want to talk about the bench and how things went because this is the first time we've seen. First time I can remember in a bit seeing a total dud from the bench here. And again, all your rotations change when you are obviously without a starter because everybody kind of changes and their roles are a little bit different. But you got Brogdon back, and he's been so key to that unit. It was not terrific. We'll talk about that in a second. First, we want to tell you about one of our sponsors, Athletic Greens. By now, if you've watched the show, you know all about Athletic Greens. We all take it here on the Garden Report. It's a terrific supplement, 75 vitamins and minerals, all in one scoop. That you can take and not have to go chase around taking a million different pills and supplements and all of that stuff. It is diet friendly. It is basically sugar free. Comes down to about $3 a day if you get it. And as we said, you don't have to go chasing around a bunch of other vitamins and supplements to do that. Ton of testimonials from athletes, celebrities, healthcare professionals. So again, time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system. Convenient daily nutrition, 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. That's all you have to do. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D, 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/garden. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/garden. Bobby, take it away. Bench. This has always been my thing. Not my thing. I can't believe how good the bench has been this year with the efforts that you're getting from guys like, Hauser, Cornette, X, Y, and Z. And I'm always worried, to pinch myself to make sure that it's actually real and that it is sustainable. Because that's a thing we didn't see coming this year. And we talked a lot about it last game. Like, how could these guys be so good when some of them weren't even playable or rosterable last year? Neither Hauser nor Cornette, for example, were good enough to be on a roster last year. And they're hugely important players. And then you had one of those games today where they, did not impact the game. Peyton Pritchard saved their butts a couple times in the past week. And again, just not really noticeable. Cornette did not make the most of his minutes in there. He was a quick out and he didn't really get back in there. Your thoughts on, kind of their struggles?
I think some little things piled up in this one. Brogdon came in early and missed some bunnies around the rim, which is becoming a little bit of a thing with him. I'm tracking. The rim numbers with him aren't awful, but 55.9% inside isn't great. And then 41.4 non-restricted area in the paint. That is not good at all. So a couple of those misses for him, I think, piled up. He was getting the ball to some guys in some good spots. I thought Hauser had some great looks that he missed in this one. Grant had an up and down night. He actually played with the starters in this one with Smart out. But you look at a few of the guys out there, they just missed some shots and things piled up, and I don't think they played the best defense in those units. The other thing is that the Pelicans have a pretty good bench unit themselves. Like Nance was great in this one. Alvarado was a leader in plus minus for them. Graham came in and made a shot. Najee Marshall, guy I'm not all that familiar with, played good in this one. And Dyson Daniels gave them some good minutes too. So faced a tough opposing second unit, one that's
it's the first time they've kind of
you.
gotten punched in the mouth a little bit, but by another second unit, they've just been rolling over these guys.
Some good pace, yeah. Cornette doesn't play good against the pace. They went smaller with that Pelican second unit, and Nance is a good small ball big man. That's a guy I feel like we mentioned coming to Boston forever, and he's landed there and done a good job. So, yeah, they faced a good unit. Brogdon wasn't himself in terms of shot making. Good passing night from him. Other guys missed shots, and I think it all piled up.
It did. And Brogdon was not anywhere close to the Brogdon we've seen. And that impacts things. And again, it's his first game back. And, those hamstrings are like, going full go and full bore when you felt it there. I know that sometimes that's in the back of some people's minds. And, that stuff can kind of, the tightness can linger a little bit. So, again, you don't know physically how he's doing. He might have been intentionally trying to go at about 80% just to kind of make sure that he was good. So
what do you think of Hauser's defense in this one?
I loved it. That's what I wanted to talk about. I that was the most impressive thing that to have to say about the bench unit. They clearly targeted him over and over and over again. I thought he was terrific there. Keeping guys in front of him, anticipating moves. He's not the quickest guy, obviously, but his anticipation is actually really good. A lot of times he would anticipate, guy's going to spin. He's going to come back to the other side and make the move and step there and be there waiting for them on a few drives there. I thought he was, again, I keep using the word competitive to talk about Hauser on defense. I thought he was super competitive on defense.
Yeah, I think Alvarado was going at him a ton. Alvarado,
I thought he was, I was really impressed I continue to be impressed by it.
Yeah, especially when a team's making that big of an effort to go at him. Like, if you put a guy in some actions, that can end up leading a guy off the floor. And I think the good thing about him is that you have Cornette out there at the rim. So usually, like, if you're a bad defensive big man, like, Ennis here, he'd always get put in actions and there'd just be nothing at the rim. And here you have Cornette at the rim helping out. Hauser's got good size himself, so he can, if he does stay in front of guys, he can use that length and his height to contest shots, and that's what he did a pretty good job with, especially inside. Like, that was another thing I heard beginning this season, is that, like, if he's at the paint area, he can contest some guys in there and prevent them from hitting some shots in the paint over him. It was all about positioning and staying in front and not opening up those hips. And a lot of times, like, he's doing a good job at least sticking with guys. And he'll get hit there. I think, like, in terms of how much focus there is on exploiting him, I don't think his defensive numbers are going to look great throughout the flow of the year. But if you're taking teams out of their offense, that can be useful if they're missing those shots. Because, like, if you're getting out of side of your offense, you need to really be hitting those, because then you're just going to end up out of sync. And that's what happened to the Pelicans in this one. I thought Alvarado had an awful offensive game. Some other guys who tried to go at him didn't have a ton of luck, and that was your result. But overall, not the best night for the bench unit. That was just one thing that stuck out to me that was pretty impressive here. Hauser just a -2. Cornette was -10. Pritchard -10.
Yeah, and this is the bummer, and this is kind of like, this is the trickle down of getting guys back. You get Brogdon back. Pritchard's minutes are reduced, which, again, they shouldn't necessarily have been, because Smart had played before and you had Smart and White. So it was actually strange that Pritchard went down to 5 minutes only. You were getting such good mojo out of him, and you only played him 5 minutes tonight. I was a little surprised there.
Yeah,
especially you got a guy like Alvarado on the other side, where size-wise, you would imagine you could match minutes there and not really worried about what you're giving up defensively.
Yeah, we'll have to ask Josue, see what happened there in terms of Joe's decision. But they want to play a little tighter in this one. It felt like more Brogdon minutes. levels that out to some degree because they were missing both the game before, right? So 4 is small. I don't know. I guess maybe some matchup stuff, or I don't know why they would have gotten away from him like that in this one because he has played great. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, maybe it had something to do with White rolling. Want to get a little bit more White, but yeah, I don't have a good answer for that one.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you could see it actually when White left the game in the fourth quarter. It was like, get him back in quick. You needed to settle it, to his credit, and he totally did, which really made a difference. It's amazing. White only had 1 assist, but he seemed to be doing so many good things with the ball in his hands all game long. And again, was just the going back to White. The thing that impressed me, the 3-point shot is the most obvious thing. But that's just simply the thing you did last year is going in now. You know, the stuff he's doing that's totally different is just the way that he's attacking and the way that he's getting to the basket. Before, I felt like last season, I felt like the only thing he could do trying to get to the basket was foul hunt, or he'd stop short and try to, maybe shoot a little floater, flat-footed. He wasn't getting all the way to the cup consistently at all. And it felt like he didn't have any confidence in doing that. Now he's going in there. He's finishing strong. We've had a few dunks this year, switching to the left hand, really finding his spot and like getting all the way to the cup. And it's something he wasn't doing at all last year. That's something that he was advertised as being able to do better. And we'd seen him, some of the games he'd played with San Antonio and some of the clips, he was able to score in more ways than he did for the Celtics last year. So, I mean, that's as impressive to me as a 3-point shot going down.
Yeah, the up and under in this one was one of the biggest shots of the game. I think that was when it was within single digits and there were a couple misses before it. So that was huge. And overall, he's had a strange year inside. I think his transition numbers probably stink because he's had a few like bunnies that he's blown in transition right at point blank range that have been weird. But in the half court, he has done a good job getting downhill. He's a super willing screener, so that frees him up too, whether it's popping out to 3 or getting inside on those, rolling. He can make some secondary passes out of those spots. I really love how he's reshaped his game because I thought that was one of the biggest issues he had last year is he was the center of the world in San Antonio for all those years with the ball in his hands. I still love when the Celtics are able to get the ball in his hands more. He looks great when he has extra ball time. Off ball, like he's not the best catch and shoot guy in the world, and he's setting a million screens. He's trying to figure out where he can fit in out there when he doesn't have the ball in his hands. So I think it's still to some degree, as much as they talk about confidence and getting adjusted to the city, like I think it was getting adjusted to this offense where there's so many ball handlers too, because I just don't think that was the case as much in San Antonio, even though he was next to Murray. So there was some degree of that there, but not as much as there was here. I love what he's doing overall. I love him as a player. I still love that they went out and were aggressive as they did in acquiring him. I guess my only question is like, what's his role ultimately going to be on this team? Because when everybody's healthy, is he a starter? Like it's him, Grant, or Rob. It's one of those 3. And I hope it can be him because I just love him with the starting unit, with how active he is, how good he's shooting, how much space he has to operate when he's playing next to Tatum and Brown. I mean, it's not like he'll have the ball in the second unit because of Brogdon. So I love him with the starters, and his shooting percentages were not great with that second unit.
No, it's weird. It's like, and that's the thing is like, when you get everybody and when Rob comes back, it actually wouldn't be stunning if there are some growing pains here in terms of what you're gonna do and how you're gonna do it. Like, as much as like you know me more than anyone, dying to see Rob come back, dying to see, hopefully the version of Rob that, you saw pre-injury last year, and just what he's able to do and how dynamic he can be. I mean, we know what a ceiling
you might end up back in a situation, John, where you're like, why isn't Rob playing more? It might be back to 2021.
But part of me's nervous, right? Because it's like offensively, they have such a good thing going, and so much of it is based on the fact that they can play with space, that they really are. And Brogdon said it at shoot around today. Josue was there, and the clips are on CLNS Media if you want to check it out. It's like really the first positionless team I've ever played on. Like, it really doesn't matter. We're just out there and everyone's doing the same thing, and Rob's not that guy. I mean, obviously Cornette's not one of those either, but like, Rob isn't. Rob has a very particular set of skills, and he's going to do one thing, but he is someone who defenses can shy off of because he's never going to shoot. And you know that.
Bad free throw shooter.
Yeah, he's not terrible, but again, he's not a guy who's going to look for his offense. He's going to be there for lobs, and that's about it. But it is going to mess with their space a little bit when he's out there.
Yeah, he just stands around the paint area if he's not rolling.
He just stands around. Pardon me. And if you go double big, that's going to change the dynamic offensively a lot. Because right now you've got either Grant or Derek White in the starting lineup. Grant comes into tonight shooting 50%. Derek White, we saw what he did offensively. They're just different in terms of what they're able to do for that team. So again, you're going to have a trade-off where there'll be times where that, and again, what's funny is the offense was better with Rob last year, but it was a different style of offense. I'm curious how Rob fits with what they're doing right now, and whether or not
high pick and roll. They're not that team anymore.
They're not that team anymore. It's a totally different thing. Now you got to integrate what he does into it. And again, we've seen it, as you mentioned, Bobby. Certain guys, when they play with the starters or when they play with the bench, they play differently. Grant, not as effective with the starters. He's been much better with that second unit. Derek White's been better with the first unit, but overall, individually, the team has been better with Grant's been in the starting lineup, and the overall defense has improved. So Joe's still got a lot of mixing and matching to do. It'd be so interesting if Gallinari was around too. Like, how would he make it all fit?
There'd be no Hauser. Yeah,
there'd be no Hauser. You'd have a lot less Hauser. So I am curious how it goes. I imagine
him, and I said this last show, he's gonna have to be Luke. And listen, if there's another Luke, I'll be as excited as anyone. But like, you look at the way Luke plays, I think it's very intentional. Like, I think that started in Maine. I think that played toward how they wanted to play as an offense, ideally last year. We're going through those growing pains. Ton of handoffs, ton of short roll passing, playing in the high post, screening. And that's a tough one for Rob. Luke's a great screener. Rob is not a good screener at all.
He's not.
And within this offense, like, you really are going to have to screen. So I almost imagine, like,
he's not. The off-ball screens have been such a huge part of this offense. Is where Rob's not great at, he's not a great screener.
He's a game changer defensively, and you're going to have to take as much advantage of that as you can. But it's gonna, I think, like, not only for health reasons, but for scheme and lineup reasons, it's going to be a more limited role Rob this year, I think. Like, his minutes are going to go down. I think he goes to the bench, and like, he has to adjust his game a little bit. And like, listen, I've talked to his camp a lot over the years. They know he needs to take steps offensively. Like, this isn't Dwight asking for the ball. Like, they know that he's going to have to expand his game. Maybe Joe will help him empower him to shoot more of those mid-rangers and some other stuff that we've talked about. But right now, I think, like, he's just got to be Luke. Like, take advantage of those 15, 20 minutes.
Luke,
get better at screening. No,
who's got to be Luke?
Rob's got to be Luke.
Rob's going to be a lot more than Luke, Bobby.
He's got to approach the game offensively like Luke.
I think the problem with not the problem. He's going to do the same things Rob Williams did, but the team, when Rob is out there, is going to have to play in a way that utilizes. Look, last year, for entire stretches, they didn't do things that utilized Rob's strengths. He often gets very forgotten on offense. I can see him very easily getting lost in this offense as well. But there's just a trade-off with what you have there because of what he brings there defensively and then rebounding and in the offensive glass. It's just going to make a difference. So when he's out there, it's going to be a different dynamic. You just wonder, just how it's going to look, which units he's best with. Is it better if he's rolling with that second unit? It's just how you're going to mix and match it there. Do you drop Horford to the second unit and just go with Rob? How's that going to, if defense is what you're really concerned with, how's that going to look? Would you go Rob and Grant in the starting lineup? So you've still got plenty of shooting out there. A lot of choices to make. It really is interesting. But as you said, you've talked to Rob's camp. They want him to evolve. They want him to be more. It's really hard to do when you're missing entire off seasons because you're rehabbing from injuries.
That was the real killer. Like, listen,
and that's the real killer.
We didn't care that he was going to miss a couple months. He missed the summer. Oh, and that's a killer when you want to see. Everybody got better on this team for the most part coming into this year, it felt like. And Rob, he's kind of starting from square one once he gets back out there, conditioning. Like, we saw how he started last year. You didn't love it, John. So these are the things I'm expecting, not to mention the team he's walking into plays an entirely different style. And that's why, like, everyone's freaking out about my Luke comment. It's just about approach. There's not going to be as much high pick and roll. There's not going to be as much him diving to the rim off of Tatum because Tatum's screening himself and he's in the lane making passes from the post and things that Rob would do before. So, like, where does Rob fit in offensively? That's going to be very important because this team's identity has changed, John. Like, their offense.
Completely. It's a different team. Rob's coming back and he's like, hey, guys, what are we doing here? Like, oh, yeah, you didn't get the memo? Like, we do this now,
I'm super interested to see how it's going to go.
We whip the ball around the perimeter. We set a lot of off-ball screens, and we shoot 45 threes a game. That's just what we do.
Yeah, how does Rob fit into that? Like, he really watch I know he sets a lot of screens. He doesn't set them well. He doesn't connect. He's always slipping because it's really his only offensive move. Luke sets great screens. Like, watch that next game. They're phenomenal. Grant has set better screens this year. There's been an effort across the boards.
I agree. It's a good problem to have. No one's saying like maybe they shouldn't.
Yeah, you can sit Al for a game and start Rob. It's great to have him.
No one's saying maybe they shouldn't play Rob when he returns. What we're saying is a lot has changed since Rob last played here, and the identity of the team has changed. Last year, when the identity was defense, missing Rob was huge. This year, of course, he's going to make a big impact defensively, but this team's bread and butter is the offense and the style of offense that they're playing, which definitely changes when Rob comes in,
Yeah, the chat's not really loving my comment there, but I'll stand by it. Like,
I just think you have to stop saying Rob and Luke in the same sentence as if there's
I'm not talking about defense. Rob is a million miles above.
I'm just saying as if anything about them is interchangeable. It's not.
Listen, on defense, Luke jumps in the paint to try to stop the shot.
Luke right now is a Band-Aid, and
Rob flies out to the perimeter. I'm talking offense. Like, that's again, where
there's just not really, you're not really comparing these guys.
I'm just talking about the approach. No, Rob's going to be a game changer defensively. You're going to have to find the spots to stick him in.
And we have to remember he's an outstanding passer.
Offensive rebounding too. He's great
offensive rebounding, and he's a great passer. It's just the space right now. The space.
And now, listen, I'm not saying he can't make the adjustments offensively to do these things, because he can. He has a huge body. He'll get better at screening, the passing, like you said, short rolls. He'll be great at those once he gets in that rhythm. And I'm sure they'll integrate some more high, like Brogdon. Come on, he knows what he's doing out there. He'll be running high pick and roll all day.
That's why I like him in that second unit with Brogdon. I think Rob's going to come in and get 5 dunks, right off.
Yeah, I'm just anticipating the adjustment. And when it comes to the starters, I think you want to leave White out there with those guys, and that'll change on certain nights. I'm sure if you're facing a double big team, you could go back to Horford and Rob to start. But with what White's doing this year in that position, I want him out there. Grant, we both in agreement he's probably better off with the bench. It's tough because the defense has been better with him out there with the starters. But if everybody's available and you can only pick one of Grant, White, and Rob, I don't know. Yep. Maybe it is Grant. It's Grant or White, I think. I think Rob's going to the bench.
It's interesting. Rob will start on the bench, I'm fairly certain, because they're going to be easing him in. I think there'll be minutes restrictions and all that stuff as he plays his way into shape. He's had no benefit of training camp. He hasn't done real basketball activity since obviously playing in the finals, where he was basically playing on one leg and had to really rest himself in between games. And, he's going to be rusty, and he's not going to be anywhere near game shape. He's definitely coming off the bench to start. But what they do after and the type of lineup they play and how that's going to impact things, it'll be interesting. It's just interesting that it's just something Joe's got to integrate. We're going to go a little bit longer. We wanted to let you guys know a couple of programming notes. Our Discord server has really been tuned up the last little bit. I know there's a lot of people freaking out about what's going to happen to Twitter. We don't know what's going to happen to Twitter. We do know you can find us a lot of different places. Obviously, you've joined us here on these post-game shows, and it's great because we get the community here. You get to chat. We get to hang out with each other. We get to see and hear your thoughts. We still might do engagement sort of, things that we've done in the past. Again, if there's no Twitter, we might do, we might go back to green room or locker room or whatever it's called. So we get to talk with you guys as well. But we do have a very active chat with our Discord server right now. So if you haven't signed up already, go ahead, clnsmedia.com/Discord. You can go there. Conversation's been going all day long. I actually checked. It was an extremely busy day on there. people were really active before the game, during the game, and then after the game as well, with a really good chat, a fun place to kind of hang out, a very good community. Everyone's respectful of one another. So if you just want to just talk with other like-minded people about the Celtics, check out our Discord server. It really is a fun place to be and a fun place to hang out and chat basketball. I want to tell you again about one of our sponsors, Calm. By now you know about Calm. #1 mental wellness app. Again, we all in the Garden Report use it. If you go to calm.com/garden, you'll receive 40% off a premium subscription, which is amazing because that's going to give you access to all of Calm's extensive library, which gets updated daily. And we're talking about curated music tracks. We're talking about guided meditations.
You got great staff over there taking care of this one.
They know. Yeah, someone didn't come in and fire a bunch of people on this app. Okay, it is well managed. It's constantly updated, and as we said, it's a great way to kind of relax your body, uplift your mind, get a good night's sleep, recharge. Like we said, with those sleep stories for children and adults, you've got all of the nature stuff, the nature sounds, curated music tracks, all that good stuff. So again, calm.com/garden, 40% off, unlimited access to the entire library, which, as we said, continues to be updated weekly with new materials. So you can always find something that's going to work for you there. Bobby, talking more a little bit about, where were we? We were talking about Rob. Anything you want to put a bow on this game with? And again, rehashing the game, it was a weird one because the Celtics really came out early, put the wood to them, hit all the threes.
An unbelievable shooting start.
Kind of coasted. It was fine. Not Tatum's best game. Sloppy Brown game. Heroic Derek White game. Bench didn't play great. Brogdon didn't play great in his return. None of that mattered. They're still that good right now. It's the best team in basketball. Milwaukee lost tonight. Celtics just kind of padding their stats here and padding their lead. And this is, what is it, 9 straight wins? It's just
9
unreal.
Straight wins, yeah. And this team's gonna
13-3, 9 straight wins, #1 point differential in the East, surpassing the Cavs now.
John, they're gonna win 1 million games this year. It's gonna be crazy.
They almost can't lose. That's the thing, is like so many things can go not their way, and they can have.
And think about how many people probably picked the under with their number, because they had a pretty high over/under number.
How many teams cruise when your best player doesn't play well? Like cruise. Not many. Let's bring in Josue Pavon. He's in New Orleans. He's hanging out. Josue, tell us something good. You were just in the locker room. You're talking to those guys. What's going on?
Yeah, man. Look, a lot of this is just a lot of the talk came from Joe Mazzulla, just about the poise, the identity of this team, how they continue to find ways to win. And even when things are down, when things aren't going well, the guys find ways to step up. I mean, look, Derek White is the case tonight. Other nights it's, Peyton Pritchard coming off the bench. So just the identity of this team continuing to fight through adversity and poise. And, even Jaylen Brown talked a lot about that as well, leading on other guys and guys stepping up when the team really needs it,
Why a little less Pritchard tonight, Josue? Only 4 minutes for him.
What's that?
Why a little less Pritchard in this one? We were wondering that. That's one we didn't have a good answer for.
I mean, with Derek White going off, it was I understand why you didn't see a whole lot of Pritchard, especially Malcolm Brogdon getting into the fold. He really got things going offensively in the sense of just being the distributor that he's been all year long, But I wasn't too surprised by it, honestly. I just think that Derek White just had that kind of game where you want to keep him going.
What else you got? Who else talked tonight?
So it was what's up, Mark? What's going on, Mark? What'd you think of Mark Spears? Or you're just gonna put that heavy head on me without saying that?
I miss Mark Spears. He used to be a regular.
What did you say? What did you say to Joe Mazzulla?
Who? To Joe Mazzulla.
There they go.
Josue froze just as Marcus.
Can you give me these closers? I love Boston.
we miss you.
I need to get back to Newberry Street. Shout out to Solaire and Waltham spot. Yeah, man. That's the move next time we go out there. Next time you're back in Boston, let me.
We lost Josue. Mark Spears, who everybody knows or should know. Is Josue back?
We got some funky. It's 1G right now.
Yeah, he's got the 1G going right now. Everybody knows who Mark Spears is, but obviously some people might forget that he was here covering the beat at the Boston
What years was
Globe.
that? Yeah, that was a little before my time, I think.
Yeah, he was great. We had him on a ton. He was such a regular contributor of ours when we were over at NBC. We had Spears on all the time. He's just so interesting.
What years was he on the beat?
I'm trying to remember what that was.
Was that 08?
I think he was here in 08.
Yeah.
Or left just before it. Mark Spears, terrific reporter, terrific basketball reporter. Josue's trying to jump back on here.
He's got. What happened to the Ethernet, Josue?
They disconnected me, Bobby. You freaking nailed it. They just unplugged.
When did Spears leave Boston?
09. Gary.
09. It was right after that.
And then Gary.
Gary came in. Gary was out in LA, right?
Hey. What a pass
Seattle.
baton that is.
Seattle.
He was in Seattle, yeah.
Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I was saying before, he came over. The players talked about a lot of the same things, but speaking of
New Orleans.
What, you guys can't hear me now? Oh, damn it.
Keep going, we'll see what happens.
Well, I'll try to make this quick. The timeout thing. Mazzulla, he's like, look, I like to see these guys face through adversity, go through it, and come out the other side. And sometimes not always going to work, but right now, 9-game winning streak, it's been working in their favor.
They had 4 timeouts left midway through the fourth quarter, if I remember correctly. They really leave them out there. And some nights they didn't challenge a play tonight, right? So they're not using them on challenges either.
And I liked how the follow-up for Derek White, well, not the follow-up, but I guess the question for Derek, and he's like, man, you came from San Antonio.
Man, that was going to be something good, too.
It's quite the contrast, yeah.
Josue, you can't win. They won't let Josue win.
It's like a comedy show. The entire meat of the story was gone, and he came back just at the end to be like, that was really something. They're like, he was around to put the bow on it.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. I will say that one of the great comments, under the radar comments from one of our regular viewers and listeners and followers, Ned, today, when Josue reported that Brogdon would be in the game. And he goes, I guess you have to call that Brogdon Wi-Fi, right?
I've seen that joke going around, yeah.
I like Brogdon Wi-Fi. Let's try it again. Josue, 5th time is the charm for sure.
Brogdon Wi-Fi, 3rd time. Brogdon Wi-Fi, I like that.
Brogdon Wi-Fi. Breaking the Brogdon news today.
Yeah. I mean, he just said it. Hey, I'm clear to go.
I'm good, man. So I'm good to go. Yeah.
Perfect. Some guys are scared to say that.
Well, it's good. I mean, honestly, best case scenario, 4 games or whatever he missed. That's pretty good.
Jimmy's not here to do the victory lap.
Yeah.
He called it right back on the floor.
Must be the weekend.
Yeah, no, Jimmy, like I said, contractually can't do. We all got the weekend off, so that's pretty good news.
Bobby, I got you this, man.
All right. So here we go. Let's we've talked about the game. What the heck was that? I see everybody in the crowd wearing one. It's not a Pelican.
Let's
embarrassing.
Take a look, Josue. That's embarrassing.
Put it on, Josue. This
grown ass adults.
Should I put it on?
Oh my God!
I just want to see it. It's not a Pelican.
Career suicide, Josue. Don't do it. It's all anyone will remember of you. Don't do it.
Yeah, good looks, John. You're right.
Can I at least see it? But bring it up, because this is not a Pelican. I'm seeing chicken, rooster. That's rooster, right?
Bobby, it's obviously a pelican. They're pelicans. It's just not.
It's not a pelican.
It's not a good pelican.
Should we bring up an image? Yeah, it's a terrible pelican.
It's just a bad pelican.
Oh man, they can't get anything right. And Zion's out again. Great. Oh man.
The Zion thing worries me.
That was your guy. You were excited about him and Ingram down there.
Jason Tatum says it's a
He was all smiles after the game too. He was dapping people up and everything, saying bye to everyone.
Yeah, he's usually in a good mood. I don't think he's. What is it, a foot? That doesn't sound great.
It's the same foot.
Oh no.
But they're calling it Like,
and he wasn't playing great when he was playing. Bad defense.
it's one of those fake injuries where they call it like a bruise, and it's like, so hopefully it's not a big deal.
They're gonna have to start. He's extended, so that's good. But they gotta start taking some steps soon as a team. They're not off to a great start. Hey, their team's not super impressive. You look at them. I like Valanciunas, but you get into the depth here. Alvarado's great, but he plays a ton for them. Najee Marshall, again, not super familiar with that guy. Some of the depth pieces coming up for them. And then, Trey Murphy, I love, but he gets hurt in this one. Herb Jones, love him. CJ, love him. Nance coming around. But once you get past those guys, gets a little shaky there. You got a Herman Gomez, DNP. The other Herman Gomez.
Oh, wait, Herman's on that team?
The other one, Willie.
Guillermo, Herman Gomez. Josue, other final thoughts on this game, and I'll let you kind of get off and do the rest of your stuff there.
I guess seeing how Tatum's going to bounce back. I think this is a great test for him in Chicago. We saw what happened last time.
What do you think of his game?
I thought it was him trying to do everything else, but get out of that groove. I thought his shot selection was good. I think that's a part of his game that is still improves. I'm still, something that carried over from last year, but at the same time, he's gonna get out of this slump, right? Like it's gonna happen soon. And I thought this would be the night, so I'm thinking Chicago is gonna be the case, and we'll see if Jalen can clean up those turnovers, which Joe Mazzulla talked about, and he thinks it's a spacing thing. He doesn't think it's Jalen individually. He thinks it's more of a team effort that's going to help him see that through.
Look, there's no question when there's a crowd, it's worse. But some of those he just puked them out of his hands, some of it is just sloppy. But you're right. You get later in the clock. You want Jalen to try to do something. The space isn't great. He's driving into traffic. There's a lot of bodies there. That's where they got into trouble last year too, is trying to kind of force the issue without proper spacing. So again, that just moving the ball around, off-ball movement, catching it somewhere else, not letting the defense set on you. That's what they ran into last year. Just dribble, and the entire defense is just kind of sitting there watching, waiting. That it's easy for the help to come over and clog things up a little bit more, and that's what happened to him tonight. It was just some of it just looked careless too. A lot of their turnovers tonight just seemed to be focus.
They haven't had much trouble with it until tonight.
Not at all, because they've been passing so much. That's the point. They pass more, turn it over less. When they get back into the kind of dribbling habits, that's where they get into trouble. Yeah,
agreed.
But again,
Pelicans second unit came to play though. You gotta give them credit for sure.
That's what we said earlier. It's the first time we watched the Celtics second unit get punked a little bit.
Yeah.
Anything on Smart, Josue? How's he doing?
He's doing well. It's just more of a the swelling is what's concerned, is why the team is concerned.
Wait, did he hurt it again? It's
the same thing he's been dealing with all year long. The swelling is what's getting everyone concerned about it. He sort of kept it to himself, and now the trainers are onto him. So it's just about the swelling. They're just not comfortable with where he is right now. So hopefully these days off help going into Chicago.
Yeah, we had talked about that, John, because he wasn't great to start the year. Physically, I don't think he's in the best spot. Like, he talked about that ankle when we interviewed him at his thing, and the quad got injured again, or the oblique, whatever you call it, in Montreal. So he's banged up early, which isn't great.
That's not great. What's funny, Bobby, you talked to Marcus in the off season. I forget what it was, one of his camps or something that.
He opened a store, yeah.
He opened a store, and he brought that up, and it kind of flew under the radar. And again, I know you were the only media there, but it was like just rehashing that story. He did talk about the ankle almost unsolicited, right? You were just kind of throwing him a regular question about, like, how's the offseason been? And he just volunteered it. So, like, it's definitely something that he's aware of, and was working through. But
it was that bad one from the East. Remember, he was flying through the air, and it just
the one where, like, how is he going to come back from that? It looked horrible, and
they played through it. Yeah,
he missed a little time, but I mean, unreal. So, yeah, I mean, he's played.
Yeah.
That's still not right for him, and it wasn't right to start the season, and it's definitely a little bit concerning that he's missed 2 games in a row with it.
Yeah, and I just think his pain threshold is just it's higher than most. You know what he can take and still play and still get on the floor.
Too bad he had just hit his stride, right? He was rolling for
unbelievable
5 games.
That's what I mean. Is like you wouldn't have noticed.
Seen.
I thought he was just kind of slow. The ankle might have slowed him. He wasn't up to, he didn't have his conditioning where he wanted it to be to start the year, and he just wasn't his regular self. He was, shot selection was a little bit off, and defensively he just wasn't. Last 7, 8, 9 games, he's been unbelievable.
Then you got Tatum's wrist in there too. There's just a couple of things lurking early in this season that you're like, all right, let's keep an eye on that. It's a little early for all these bumps and bruises.
Yeah, when you get it heading into the playoffs, you get it because everyone's got a little bit of something. Nobody's 100% when you get to the end of the season, but you don't love seeing it early. So again, look, the upshot to having stuff happen early is who cares if you rested Marcus Smart for 3 weeks right now? Nobody, right? Doesn't matter. Nothing matters right now. Your eyes are on a much bigger prize. If Marcus Smart needs to, I actually don't want him to gut it out, and I don't want him to play like if he feels pretty good.
They've won without Brown, Smart,
get it under
Brogdon.
Control. Yeah, get it under control and come back when you're ready.
They've won without Smart, Brown, Brogdon, and Horford. It's pretty amazing. Can you win without Tatum? If you want to really squeeze in a rest night for him, we'll see. But just do it if you need to.
Start doing it. Doesn't matter. And again, I like it's like in fantasy football. I like it when all my good players have a bye in the same week. I'm just going to give up on that week and take the L. I like that rather than give Jalen 1 game, Tatum 1 game, Smart 1 game. Just decide on one back-to-back that you're going to sit. You're going to just let everybody stay home. Build in some load management games for these guys. Let them. I don't want to see Tatum look tired or overworked or just fine. Miss a game or 2. It's fine. It's fine. So do it.
How's New Orleans, Josue?
It's not bad, Bob. It's not bad. A little chilly, but
Did you go out?
It happens. I didn't.
No, you got in this morning.
Oh, you got in this morning? No, you got in yesterday, didn't you?
I got in yesterday. Yeah, I got in yesterday.
Bullshit, you didn't go out.
It's different.
Get out of here.
Without you, Bobby.
Did the Celtics?
Bobby here.
When did the Celtics get in? The Celtics got in yesterday too, right?
Yeah, and they're leaving tonight, which was a team decision. I'm hearing it was a voting process, and everyone
leave tonight.
Yeah,
rather than give it a go.
Yeah, spending the off day in Shaw City. So.
Fair enough. All right, we're gonna wrap. I think. Any closing thoughts, guys?
No, I think we hit it all.
No, this team better clean it up for this matchup against the Bulls, man. I think this is it's going to be a good one. This one might come down to the wire. So
Bulls have played them tough twice.
Yeah, they have. I mean, they did, and I don't think that's going to change this time around. I think they're looking forward to this. They want to cut this winning streak. Everyone's on the Celtics are on everyone's radar right now. So I think it's going to be a really good matchup. I'm looking for Tatum and Brown to do one of their classic.
One of their classic, John.
Yeah. It's Chicago's been in a bad way recently too. So I'm seeing talk in Chicago of them possibly thinking about blowing it up and entering the Wemby sweepstakes, which is crazy to think that's where they would be. But they're pretty frustrated with how that team is looking right now. Obviously, Lonzo not being there, Vucevic never kind of turned into what they wanted him to be when they got him. Things don't look great there.
No, that was that nightmare night though that they were in Chicago, and you don't want anything that looks like that. Was by far the worst night the Celtics have played this season when they blew that big early. It was a night similar to this one. Imagine if they hit those 10 threes tonight.
Yeah, that's what I got.
And then the Pelicans just sort of passed them and just kept on rolling. That was an awful game.
They lost to the Magic at home tonight. They're definitely hurting right now.
Well, Celtics don't have ball.
Oh my God, Zach LaVine. You want to know his line tonight?
2 for 11.
25 minutes, 1 for 14, 0 for 5 from 3 for 4 points total.
Something's up with his knees.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that will be interesting, John. That's like
and that's a team with a rough bench too. You're talking about minutes for Javonte and Dragic and Drummond. Like they're.
But those are pieces other teams could potentially need there. And then DeMar, like he's a big contract that could move and help a contender maybe. That is interesting. And Vucevic's entering free agency, so yeah, they are in a spot right now where they're
in a decide what you're gonna do sort of situation.
Lonzo, who knows when he's ever gonna play again?
The way they're headed, they're in rough shape right now. So who knows what's gonna happen there? But that's on Monday, so that's pretty good. We are back. We are back on Monday, but we're taking the weekend off.
On Sunday.
We got Pats on Sunday, so make sure you check out the post-game show here, of course. We want to give you one more reminder. If you want to continue the chat, I may pop in there. I was in there earlier. People are nicer to me there than they are in the comments here. I'm just going to say it, okay? CLNS Media. CLNS Media,
The chat did not like us tonight. We were nitpicking.
It's my fault. It's fine. It's usually my fault. CLNSmedia.com/Discord. Head over there. Always a good chat going on. A bunch of Celtics fans in there. I know a lot of you guys are in there. Talking about the game and other things. So yeah, jump in there if you're interested in hanging out. But again, last thing we want to tell you, of course, our sponsors, can't forget about those guys. We'll start with Calm, number one mental wellness app. Go to calm.com/garden, receive 40% off a premium subscription. Get your mind right, get your body right, get yourself a good night's sleep. And of course, athleticgreens.com, your one-stop shopping destination for all of your health needs. 75 vitamins and minerals packed into one scoop. Drop it in a cup of water. You're good to go. Athleticgreens.com, free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs and a phenomenal t-shirt. Forgot to mention that last time. They have been made. The first shipments are going out. I'm so sorry to those of you who've waited, but you're going to get your t-shirts finally. I've got all of you guys who DM'd me. I got your sizes. I got the right addresses. The shirts are going out soon. So again, thank you for being patient there. Celtics beat the Pelicans. 9th straight win. 117-109. Phenomenal stretch for this team right now.
Yep, it's been fun.
Yeah.
Breezy games, great offense, good pace. It's enjoyable every night now.
Yeah. It is. It's fun to watch. So yeah.
What about you, Josue? You sticking around a couple of days, or you off to Chicago?
I'm off to Chicago tomorrow. So not in the morning, not till later on. So maybe I'll get a little nice morning in here.
All right. We're back Monday. I think we'll have the full squad back on Monday for that one. But Josue will be out in Chicago. The rest of us will be, doing the show the way we always do. So we'll be back on Monday. As we said, head over to Discord if you're not there already. If you want to chat with us, I'll pop in. Maybe Bobby pops in, and we'll get your thoughts on tonight and anything else. Sherrod was off. Everyone deserves an off day here and there, so we'll do that. But yeah, we'll jump back Monday and we'll talk Celtics Bulls with you guys.
They thought Sherrod overslept. Remember the other night?
Yeah. Poor guy. For those of you, and again, we mentioned the Twitter thing. We don't know what's happening there, but you can get all of our updates.
That's
from
my
Twitter.
Worst nightmare, John. You know me and Twitter.
I know. If anything does happen, again, you can find us here. You know where we'll be. We'll huddle up. We'll tell you about all of our new destinations, or whether we're on Mastodon or who the hell knows. Doesn't matter. But as we said, you can always stay connected with us here on YouTube.
Can you give me 30 seconds on what's going on there? Because I have no clue.
Where? On Twitter?
Twitter. Yeah.
They don't have enough people to run the site right now. That's the problem. So
are you worried it's actually going down?
No, just the fear is if things happen, that they just don't have enough people to troubleshoot them. It's a massive site with 1 billion users. It's just really hard to manage. Like, our website goes down, and I'm like, hey, oh my God, we got problems. Like, it's a big operation. It's a big thing to do. So we'll see what happens. But again, it's still up. You can still get information from us there about when we go live. But again, just to be safe, we have an Instagram account. We have a TikTok account. We have multiple TikTok accounts, multiple Instagram accounts for CLNS Media. We have our Discord server. We have multiple YouTube channels. It's not hard to find us, so you can stay connected with CLNS Media, even if we have a Twitter meltdown. Obviously, you guys know where to find us. So, just continue coming here, watching the show, business as usual as far as we're concerned. We'll see you guys later.